You're listening to Let's Get Iconic, the podcast for visionaries, leaders, creatives, and lovers done playing small. This is where identity expands, vision embodies, and radical self-love becomes inevitable. Because your life is as rich as the questions as you dare to ask and the truth you dare to embody. I'm Vanessa, founder of Inner Icon and the Neurotrance method, and this is your invitation to draw a line in the sand, stop shrinking, and become the icon the world is waiting for. Let's get iconic. Episode 1, the time is now. Welcome to Let's Get Iconic. We're just getting this party started. I'm very excited to be here. I hope to be the sounding gong for each and every one of you who are ready to stand tall and be who we need out in the world right now. Because more than ever, it's time that we represent who we want to be, how we want to live, and the world we want to live in. It's important that we draw a line in the sand and stand as the visionaries daring to dream a new world, but not dream it, ground it, land it. So I'd like to start with a story. Imagine a garden. In this garden, there are seeds everywhere, millions of them, every one carrying the complete blueprint for everything that they were designed to become. Every root, every branch, every flower, already encoded inside. Perfect, complete, waiting. But something has happened in this garden. The soil has been compacted, not by one storm, but by thousands of small pressures all over time. The weight of worry, the weight of a world that keeps delivering more than we know how to handle. The weight of waking up every morning and opening up our phones, metaphorically speaking for these seeds, of course, to find out something else has gone wrong. And in that compacted soil, the seeds are still there, still intact, still carrying everything they were designed to become. They just need one thing. They need us to tend the garden again. That story, that's us right now, today. Let's talk about where we actually are, because I know I'm not interested in pretending everything's fine. Boy, are they not. I'm not interested in bypassing reality, because we can't change things if we're not willing to face them, right? We're living through one of the most disorienting periods in modern history, and we are feeling it in our bodies and our nervous system, in the low-grade hum of anxiety that has become so familiar, most of us don't even notice it anymore. We're watching wars unfold in real time on our phones. Conflicts land in our nervous system as if they're happening next door, and face it, if it's happening to one of us, it's happening to all of us. Because these images aren't some scary movie that we see. They're in our hands, on our phones, in all hours of the day, unfiltered. And these aren't just images, these are real people and real lives. We are watching the Epstein files slowly surface, and what they're revealing is not just crimes of one man. They're revealing the degree of which power has been wielded in the dark against the vulnerable by the people and institutions we were told to trust. This is not a moment to be passive. No, this is a moment to draw a line in the sand, to really define who we are as a people and who our society is. And it's worth fighting for, because if it can happen to someone, it can happen to you, and that's the truth. And more than ever, it is time for us to support ourselves through radical self-love. Therefore, we can support one another. That's what radical self-love is when we dare to do the work. Because if you don't heal it, you deal it. But that means if you've healed it, you don't deal it. And that's what I mean by radical self-love. We have to do the work to heal it so that we don't deal it. Everything that we see out in the world that is offensive and degrading and disgusting by every measure of a true humanity that actually loves and supports itself, every part of that is you can't harm another without harming yourself. And so the more people harm themselves or go through atrocities and abuse and don't take the time to heal it, they become the abusers. So we have to stop the cycle within ourselves. And that's what radical self-love really is. is doing the work to look at the parts of ourselves that we find unworthy. Because if we find those parts of ourselves unworthy, we'll look at someone else as unworthy. And that's when we pull the trigger. And that's when our society gets lost. Just degradation, war, humiliation, rape, you name it. We're in it. And it's time that we stand up to create a world where we matter again. Our lives, every single one of them. I don't care where you are. These lives are lives. And if we are on this planet together, we need to find a way to work together to sustain a world we can all live in. Not just some of us with the whipping power. These are really sick people. If they would heal themselves, they would deal a real balanced opportunity for all of humanity. But since they're not healing themselves, they're just setting up war after war, genocide after genocide. And I'm sorry to have to bring it up, but again, we can't change something if we're not willing to face it. And so this work is about showing up right here, right now for you, for your life, for your community, for your family, for your planet. However that starts for you, that is the seed we're talking about. And we can't be in the dark. We're going to have to fight through the manure to get to the sunlight so that we can really see what we're made of, so that we can all blossom, right? Because not just one seed of flower gets to blossom. All seeds get to blossom. It's in the DNA. It's in our code. And we need to own it. We need to step up to bat, and we need to do what it takes to allow that sun in, because that is our birthright. So that's what we're doing here with this Let's Get Iconic, because it's not about just, getting the spotlight on you. It's about taking up space, because all of the wrong people seem to be doing that right now. So it's just an understanding that, guess what? We all have this short life together. Now is the time. None of us know how long we have. We need to understand that it's time to take up space. It's time to be bold and beautiful, to dare, to bring peace, to bring incredible solutions, to bring incredible innovations that actually support the communities and bring us together to connect the dots, to be incredible constellations together, not to be one above, but all together. So if that resonates, please stick around. This is the journey that we're on to support one another, becoming iconic. Because the icon doesn't get told who they have to be. The icon knows they are the seed, and they're willing to go through the manure to find out what that really means uniquely for that seed individually. Because it's in that individual process, that we become what we're meant to be. We need one another. We're different because we have the missing link that the other doesn't have. Therefore, every single one of us needs each other. It's very simple and it's very beautiful. And a few sick people have been steering the wheel, and it's time that we stand up. And that's going to take some time. And it's going to take some breath, and it's going to take some good times and some hard times, and finding that balance so that we're not always in the anxiety loops, but we're also taking time to find peace, which peace is more powerful than anything else. Peace and love are the highest vibrations, and it takes a lot of courage to own those and not dive into the cycles that we're handed to juggle. We get to choose. And what are we going to do about it? I'm telling you right now, it's not about being passive. It's about owning our strengths, about connecting the dots. It's about working together. We are every drop of the sea. That's us right now. We become the sea, the movement that changes everything. It's not easy. I understand. We're all busy juggling, hustling. We're watching gas prices soar, groceries. The cost of simply being alive has climbed so high that there's no mistake in that, because if we're so busy hustling, we can't connect the dots. And this is where we need that to take that time, take that breath, take our power back, and find ways of connecting the dots together. And we have to believe it's possible, because that's part of the play is to overwhelm us so that we believe it's not possible. But again, we are the creators of our lives, and we need to recognize that now more than ever. We are watching people working harder than ever and yet feeling even further behind. This is a systematic pressure that's landing on our bodies and our nervous systems every single day. And we're doing it all while trying to lead, trying to love, trying to show up for our families, our teams, our communities, to be present in a world that is pulling our attention in 1,000 different directions simultaneously. You see, we're not broken. We're just very overwhelmed and distracted, and there's a profound difference. Every single time in human history that the world has undergone this kind of systematic shift, this kind of foundational disruption to the stories we told ourselves about how things work, the people who found their footing first were not the ones who had the most information. They were the ones who knew themselves deeply. They were the ones who had done that inner work to know what they stood for when everything external was uncertain. The ones who had cultivated relationships with their own identity that did not depend on an external stability to hold it. These are the icons, and we are those icons today. This is our job. Not icons in the sense of fame and celebrity, icons in the truest sense, people whose inner life was so anchored, so rooted, so generally their own, that the storm could rage and they could still move from their center. This is the goal, is to bring us to that root, that center, that core of who we are, so that we can be who we need to be in this moment. This is where we begin. This is where we build. This is where we begin to show the world what we're made of. Not escaping the world as it is, becoming someone who can meet it and change it from a place of genuine power rather than fear. David Bowie said, "I don't know where I'm going from here, but I promise it won't be boring." He said that in a moment. He was deliberately dismantling everything that had made him successful when he walked away from the comfortable, the familiar, the identity that people expected him to be, and chose the unknown instead, not because he had a map, because he trusted himself more than he trusted the familiar. He was paying attention to something inside of himself that was more real than the external pressure to conform. He created Ziggy Stardust not to escape himself, but to give him permission to be more fully himself than the world had yet allowed him to be. He said, "Even though I was very shy, I found I could get on stage if I had a new identity." That is at the heart of everything we do at Neurotrance work. We don't wait until we feel ready. We step into the identity and let the readiness follow. Because our nervous systems don't know the difference between who we are and who we are practicing becoming. When you inhibit a new identity, even temporarily, even as an experiment, your brain begins laying down new neural pathways, new grooves, new default patterns of thinking and feeling and responding. This is neuroplasticity. This is the science of becoming, and it's available to all of us right now. And especially in this moment of war, the Epstein files, gas prices, AI, it's important that we really take the reins and realize we get to decide what's next. That's on us. It's on us to embody who we want to be in this moment and what we want to create out in the world, to be the answers we so desperately need. Because the world's not going to settle down and wait for us to be ready for any of this. Let's face it, it's right here on our doorstep, and it's time we do something about it. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in a cell. Let that land for a moment. Nelson Mandela had to face fear like no other. He was in a brutal place. Fear was a rational response, but he did not let fear be the loudest voice in the room. And he said something else that we need to hear today as we navigate this really intense moment in our own history. He said, "There is no passion to be found playing small, in settling for a life that is less than one we are capable of living. We are being asked right now, by the very instability of this moment, to play small, to hunker down, to manage rather than to create, to survive rather than to become. And I understand that impulse. It is deeply human. When our nervous system is under threat, it contracts, it conserves, it plays small as a survival mechanism. But here is the truth that Mandela lived. Playing small does not keep us safe from an unsafe world. It keeps us from being ourselves while we wait for safety that may never come. And Mandela also said this, and this one I want you to carry with you today. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. We, not you, not me, we. This is a we situation. We need to rise. Every single one of us who steps into our magnitude, who chooses to know ourselves more deeply, love ourselves more radically, and show up more completely, creates a permission slip for someone else to do the same. This is how we change the world that is showing us Epstein files and rising prices and wars, not by fixing it from the outside first, but by becoming collectively the kinds of humans who create a difference in the world from the inside out. Let me come back to the garden, the soil that's been compacted. We know this, we feel this. But here's what is also true about the compacted soil. The seeds are still there. The soil, even in the most hardened soil, responds to warmth, to water, to consistent, gentle, persistent tending. The warmth in our story of becoming is our attention, our willingness to turn towards ourselves, towards each other, with curiosity instead of criticism. Our collective choice to ask what is possible rather than rehearse what is broken. This is what radical self-love actually is in its foundational level, not a personal luxury in a world on fire, an act of collective resistance, because the person who genuinely loves themselves does not need to dominate others to feel powerful, does not need to hoard to feel safe, does not need to destroy to feel significant. The Epstein stories exist because there are people in the world who never learned to do this work, who sought power over others because they never found power, true power, within themselves. We are building something different here. We are building a humanity here in the Inner Icon Collective that is so genuinely connected to their own relationship, to their unique inner icon, their own identity within, that they lead from abundance rather than scarcity, love from wholeness rather than the wound, create from vision rather than fear. This is the world we are building, one inner recode at a time. So here's the Neurotrance teaching for today. When we are under sustained stress, the kind of low-grade, relentless, nowhere to land stress that characterizes this particular moment in our history, our nervous system is doing something very specific. They activate the threat response. Cortisol rises. The prefrontal cortex, the part of our brains responsible for creativity, long-term thinking, empathy, and complex decision-making, goes offline. And the older, more primitive parts of our brain take over. The part optimized for survival. This is not weakness. This is design. This is your nervous system doing exactly what it evolved to do. But here's the problem. The threat response was designed for acute short-term threats, a predator, a physical danger, something that resolves. It was not designed for sustained, ambient, never quite resolving threat of a world in chronic disruption. And when we run the threat response continually, without adequate recovery, without a felt sense of safety that comes from genuine self-knowledge and self-trust, we begin to make decisions from fear that we would never make from clarity. We contract, we perform, We manage impressions rather than live authentically. #we play small. And underneath the performance, the real self, the inner icon waits, just like the seed, intact, still carrying the blueprint, waiting for our nervous system to find its way back to safety. Not the safety of external circumstances, the safety of genuine self-knowledge. That's the work of Neurotrance. An internal anchor so deep, so genuinely your own, that the storm of the external world can move through you without dismantling you. That is what we build in Neurotrance work, an internal anchor so deep, so genuinely your own, that the storms of the external world can move through you without dismantling you. That is what Bowie had. That's what Mandela built in 27 years in a cell. And that is what we are building here together. And now I'd like to share a few questions, because your life is as rich as the questions as you dare to ask. Allow these questions to sit with you in your body, not just your mind. Let them land somewhere deeper than thought. First, the wars, the revelations, the economic pressure, the pace of change. What is one thing you know to be true about yourself that no external circumstance can take away? What is your anchor? Second, where have we collectively and you personally been playing small as a response to a world that feels unsafe? And what would it look like to choose expansion instead of contraction, even in just one area right now? And the third question is, Bowie built an identity so rooted in his authentic self that he could move through radical uncertainty without losing his center. What would your most iconic, most authentic identity look and feel like, not as a performance, but as an embodiment? And the radical self-love question is, Mandela said that as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. Where are you dimming your light right now? And what would it mean as an act of love for yourself and the world to let it shine? We have the answers we need. They live in us, in our inner icons, in our willingness to know ourselves, to love ourselves radically, and to dare in a world that's asking us to shrink, to expand instead. We are not broken. We are becoming, and the world needs us to become now, not someday. Now is the time. Until next time, let's get iconic. Icons, thanks for being here. If anything in today's episode landed for you, please share it or do a review. It helps get the work out there. And if you're ready to go deeper, the Salon of Possibilities is your next step. A private transformational session with me you can book right now at inner-icon.com. This podcast is brought to you by Inner Icon, where leaders lead fully and lovers love boldly. Until next time, let's get iconic.